federal agents have disrupted several advanced terror plots to the Homeland during the tenure of Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson. He spoke exclusively to Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge today in New York as federal workers return to the site of unspeakable tragedy.
15 years after nearly 3,000 Americans were murdered in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Shanksville, Pennsylvania, the threat is more diverse with the emergence of homegrown terrorists and encrypted communications that make it increasingly difficult for investigators to track.
9/11 was the prime example of a terrorist-directed attack. We now live with the prospect, in addition, of terrorist-inspired attacks, where ISIL, Al-Qaeda, tries to literally reach into our homeland through the internet, through social media. Catherine, welcome.
With exclusive access, Fox News went with Homeland Security Secretary Jeh Johnson as federal government employees return to ground zero for the first time in 15 years and take up new workspace at One World Trade Center. The return marked by today's ceremony is deeply personal for those who lived through the attacks.
In some ways, it feels like victory, you know.
Goes to our resilience as Americans, as New Yorkers, as people of the free world, and we won't let somebody else dictate. Dictate what we do.
The anniversary as well as the current threat are never far from anyone's mind.
Is there a specific or credible threat to the 15th anniversary?
We know of no specific credible threat around this 15th anniversary, but in this environment, it's important to frankly not get too hung up on that. When you're dealing with terrorist-inspired attacks, which could strike with little or no notice, the cop on the beat could be the one to detect the next terrorist attack on the U.S.
Are there plots that have been disrupted on your watch that the public is not aware of?
All the time, yes. We have prevented a number of actors from carrying out their intent at the very latest stages of their plotting and their planning.
Johnson says Tashfeen Malik and Omar Farouk, who gunned down 14 in San Bernardino, California, and Omar Mateen at the Pulse nightclub in Orlando, are the new faces of a self-radicalized threat.
Can anything ever prepare you for the moment when a terrorist murders 49 people in a Florida nightclub?
No, nothing can prepare you for that moment, just like nothing could prepare anyone for a 9/11, for a San Bernardino.
What do we know about Omar Mateen today that we didn't know in June?
There were very definitely signs, and if people close to someone who carries out an act of terror can be encouraged to come forward and say something, that does make a difference.
On the debate over Syrian refugees coming to the U.S. and whether it will increase the risk, Johnson is guarded.
I don't comment on what the candidates say. To vilify and isolate American Muslim communities is very much counter to our Homeland Security, national security efforts. I was in my law office on
As the anniversary approaches, Johnson, who was practicing law in New York City on 9/11, says the attacks altered his focus, as it did for so many Americans.
It was a moment in my life when my brain did not believe what my eyes were seeing, and I kept thinking that out of the rubble and the smoke would emerge the towers, but it didn't happen, and it changed our nation and it changed our world.
And his department's message is one of resilience.
We are a strong, courageous, resilient nation, and so on this anniversary, it's important to remember and honor those who were killed, remember the heroes on that day, but it's also important to look forward.
In New York, Catherine Herridge, Fox News.